Great. So I hope you guys watched the videos that your colleagues created in the weekend. So there are 3 videos on Git, environments, and Markdowns, and they are all in the YouTube playlist. I don't know if so I haven't checked how many viewers they had. So let's see, for example, the Git video, 66 viewers, good. The virtual environment, 19 views, and Markdown is just 11 views. So it seems that not all of you guys watch them. So please watch these videos. They are important topics that we don't have the time to discuss them in the class, but nevertheless, you need to know them. They could come up in an interview, in a future work, or whenever, and you should have some idea about this stuff. Okay, so what we are going to do today, we want to talk about the data acquisition, but first we'll do a recap of these 3 videos. So we won't have the regex presentation today, so let's see if we got some time for that, otherwise next week. And then we will work on APIs. So basically, if you want to acquire data from web, you either need to go and find a proper API and get the data from the API, or you need to go through the web scraping. And the web scraping is something that we will work on it next week. So I think we need 2 sessions for this. This is a very nice topic. I really like it. And I always learn something new in this topic. So every day I learn something new. When I was creating these presentations for today, I also learned a lot of things new. So I think there's like one of the things that there's no end to it, because it goes to the cyber world, and there's always like difficulties to get the data, and you need to go through things to get the data that you need. Yeah. And then we will do also a group practice at the end. So we want to analyze the Wall Street bets. And if you don't know that, it's a Reddit channel that people are talking about stocks, and sometimes they have an effect on the market. So the GameStop was their latest show, and I hope you follow that. And yeah, so I can just show you how easy it is to get the data from a channel that is, for example, in the first glance, maybe very difficult to acquire. Okay, let's begin. First, about the presentations. So the first presentation was about the Panda environments. I don't have anything to add to this. The video was great already. And if you have any questions, let's have them now. Is there any question? Okay, no. Then on the Git, also very nice and the professional video. I didn't know that we have a YouTuber here. So nice video. I just want to add to this that there is a Coursera course that is provided by Google, and it has it's not a very lengthy one. It's just 4-week course. I recommend you to listen to that, and you need to work very often with Git in a team in the near future, because usually you are in a team and you need to work on Git. And the other thing I want to add is that when you apply for jobs in like data science world, you must have a GitHub page on your resume. And people will go there and look at the codes that you have there or the codes that you changed. And this is like part of your application. So take this serious. So like 2 weeks ago, I was like joining to a friend. They wanted to interview someone for the data science job. And I was just there. and like after the interview, the only problem that we saw in his profile was that his GitHub page was, there was some codes that were very unclean, and there were like very untidy ways of working with the data. And that's why we realized that this is not maybe a great candidate for them. So please take GitHub serious. People will go there and watch your codes, and that's one of the ways that they understand how good you are in coding. Otherwise, like a recommendation letter or saying that I do this, I do know that, and so on, and nobody give a crap. Good. And regarding the markdowns, okay. So any question for the Git and GitHub? Okay. No. Okay. Now let's go on the markdown. So there are like some things that were missing in the video. So I forgot to mention to one thing. So there are things like so when you want to create a work with markdown, you don't have to create everything by hand. So sometimes, for example, you want to create a table. So there are online tools that can help you to generate what you want. So for example, so for example, here, if you want to create a table, you just write, you create your table here, like A, B, C. Like this, and you just put this, and it gives you a markdown already. So you just can easily copy paste this, and it will generate a table for you. So this is one important thing. So it will make your life a bit easier. The other thing is the power of HTML. So basically, Markdown is an HTML environment. So whatever you want to have, you can just, if you find something interesting in an HTML, you can just, you want to find this part, so you can just, in your browsers, you can easily inspect it and find the code for that part. So how it is made. So like what's the HTML code for behind this, okay? And you can just easily copy paste this part and put it in your markdowns, and it gives you yeah, nice views. Okay. Anything left for the markdown? No? Great. Okay, we can jump into the data acquisitions, but before that, I'm a bit excited to show you something else. So I don't know if you know something about GitHub Copilot project. So basically, what GitHub's just recently announced is an AI tool that can help you guys to write codes. And it is just published last week, and it's already there for Visual Studio, JetBrains, and Novim. I work only with Visual Studio, and I'm just going to show you today this very shortly. So basically, it's a co-pilot. So you are the main pilot who will write the codes, but this is a great tool that can help you writing your codes that you want. So you need to go through the documentations for sure, but I haven't been there so far, but I can just show you how interesting it is. So for example, so we can start with the Hello World application. So you want to write a function of Hello World. And this GitHub here, so is finding something for you usually. Doesn't work. Shit. No, doesn't work. Yeah, this is like how Steve Jobs usually. Oh, I just checked it before the class and it worked. Unfortunately, not now. Let's try something else.
Perhaps
for
try
example,
to close and reopen the application.
no, that doesn't work. So it's usually a code that you need to have. So for example, if you want to like get the weather data, for a city, and then you have a city. Doesn't work apparently. Maybe I just don't know. Okay, maybe next time I can show you this. But usually works, and it gives you a very nice function that does basically the whole thing. So you just get the city, give the city to the function, and give you the weather data, and it will just write the function down for you. No, 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 it doesn't work apparently, and I don't know what's wrong with it. Okay, no problem. Yeah, sorry, these things happens. Okay, let's continue with our course. I think there's something wrong with my PC as well. Okay, so when you want to do a data analysis task, you usually you need the data, right? And so the data comes mainly like from two ways. So you either exclusively get the data that you want for this project. So you basically generate the data that you want. And there are many ways to do that. So like most common way is a survey. So you can just create a survey and gather the data you want and do the analysis. And there are tools for that. For example, Amazon mTorque is a great tool. So if I just have a link there, so you can see how you can design an mTorque survey. And basically, Amazon has an army of people, so you can just say, okay, I have this survey, I want to give it to this type of population with this amount of education, with this amount of sophistication, and so on. And these people will do the survey for you. And there are many academic papers that are just the data was created based on mTorque. So so from time to time, I see people that are searching for someone to answer their surveys for their master thesis and so on. And I always ask them why you don't try mTorque, because it's like very cheap. You can you can focus on the population that you want, and they do the survey for you. So this is one way. So there are other ways. So like the Survey Monkeys, that you just create a survey that, and you can share the link with the other people, and then people answer to this, and then you get like a CSV file at the end with all the results, and then you can start your analysis. The other way is to just have an experiment. For example, you can have laboratory experiments. You just bring the people in the lab and ask them questions, and or working with an application. So the application will generate the data set at the end for you after the experiments. There's also one other way of doing experiments is in the application. So for example, if you're in a company and you want to provide a new feature in your application, you can like make a test and control groups. And base, for example, you can base on the IP of the users. You can say that, okay, so this group can access this feature and this group not, and then you see what happens to the test groups, and then you can do some analysis on them as well. One thing that's very important here is that you always work with the sample selection bias problem, because it's very important to see the sample that they answer your survey. There are maybe specific people with a specific knowledge or with a specific ethnicity or something like that, and there's always a sample selection bias problem that you need to take care of that. And there's always an ethical aspects that you need to consider. So maybe you need to talk to lawyers if you're in a company, or you need to check for ethical etiquettes and so on. So this is the problem there, but it usually at the end gives you a nice data set that you can start work on that without missing data or something like that. On the other hand, there are data sets that are provided by third party, and they are collected not just for your study, but just they're there. And you just can reuse the data set for your own purpose. And it's usually a subset of a bigger data sets. And that the main problem there is that because they are not creating the data set for you, maybe they didn't put enough attention for the main variables you want. So the data could come with more missing values for sure. And they are also like not always for free. So you need to pay sometimes for them and so on. And to access them, you can either just download the whole data set. So for example, in our data room, if you want to have like the stock prices in the data room, you can just connect to the CRISP data set and download the data you want. Or if you want the company balance sheet stuff or so on, you just access the compute stat, and then you select the data set that you want and click on the download. It gives you the data that you want with a direct link. So I can just show you. So because this is important, maybe you're going to need them in your master thesis. So our university has has a subscription to WRDS, and you can just access it in the data room. So for example, you are interested in the CRESP data set, you just go there, you say, I need the security files like daily, stock file, and so on. And then you select what data you want. So from 2000 until 2020, I'm interested in Microsoft and Apple. You can basically download the whole database here. So if you select here, you search for the entire data set if you want. And you select which columns you want, for example, and yeah, what is the data that you want to, the format that you want to have. Like you can have like a CSV format, and then you just submit this, and it will give you a download link that you can just download the whole thing that you want. So this is the easiest way. The next way is to access the API of this data set. And this is like the main part of our course today. And if you cannot find an API, what you need to do is to just start hand collecting the data that you want. Or if you are smart enough, you can find a way to scrape the website in the way that you want. Okay, so this is like so from the least difficult to the most difficult part. Okay, so what is API? API stands for Application Programming Interfaces, and it allows developers to create complex functionality much more easily. And so they basically, you can just think of it as, for example, when you are, when for example, you created a robot or a device on your home, and it needs electricity, right? You just put the plug into the electricity plug, and you don't care how the electricity comes to that plug, right? Basically, this is like an analogy of API in the real world. So you don't need to be an electric engineer to just take care of this. So the plugs are there, you just use them as part of the thing that you want to run your application. And at the end, these APIs like create the opportunity for you guys to think about lots of possibilities or lots of the things you could add to your applications. And also, I found this this tweet very interesting. So there's an API analogy to restaurants. So if you're in a restaurant, the menu is your API. So you basically can say, I'm interested into this food, and then this API goes to the kitchen and brings you the food. You don't need to care about how the food is created. So you just order something and it will come to you. And just keep this analogy in mind. We will work with it a bit more. The next slides. So another way to think about the APIs, like, for example, you want to predict the stock returns based on weather conditions, or you just want to make an application on that. So there is like a nice Journal of Finance paper. So JF is our top journal, basically. And they show that sunny days comes with better returns. So basically, people are in a mood, in a better mood to trade. That's why the stock returns are better in the sunny days. And then, if you want to create an application that do some suggestions to the people, what you want to do is to get the data, and based on the sunniness, for example, you do some analysis, right? And therefore, you like with APIs, it's super easy because you don't need to measure the weather yourself. So and you basically just call the API. Yeah, I need the data. The API take care of the weather data for you. And you can see, for example, there are many APIs available for the weather. So Open Weather Map is one of the best, and it's super easy. So basically, you can see the Berlin weather here. You can just search for any city here, and there are the data there. And they have a nice API that's so based on your need, you can just find their API. They are documented nicely, and you can just, yeah, for example, here you can say, okay, I wanted the like hourly forecast of the data for city of X, and you need an API key, and it gives you the data. I'll just show you in a moment how you can work with that. So just to finish this slide, so basically you get the API that you need, you get the data with this API, and you focus on your application. So you don't need to take care of what's behind this API anymore, okay? It's just like a restaurant. You order something and you don't care how the food is prepared, usually. Okay, so now I just want to jump into more technicalities on that. So basically, how internet works. So usually the data sets are stored somewhere in a database, and they are running on a web server. So any website has a web server on the internet. And then to access this data on these web servers, there are some API endpoints that you just send some request, and this API process it here in the server and give back to you a response. And basically like your web browser is also very easily doing the same thing. So it always sends some request and get an HTML back, and it translates this HTML code to a nicely visualized things for you. And for example, in the weather, this weather thing that we have here, what we can do, I hope you can still see me. Okay, so what we can do, I'm working with Chrome, but you can basically do the same with every browser. There is this inspect thing. So when you open the inspect, so you can monitor all the network activity here. So whatever you do, it will be appear here. So whatever communication within the server. So if you say Berlin and put the search button here, so what you can see here, there is a send request to the server, and there is this API. I'll just copy the link address. So you can see that there is a request sent to the server. So this is basically asking for a find function. So there is a find function in the server, I know, that it gets a string and an API key and some units, which is like the metric units that is here. And it gives you back. So if you just send this to the server, it gives you back this. And the rest, all the visualizations that you see is just the translations of this data on the HTML background. And this is the way you can see the communications. And so basically, it's very ugly here. One way to see them, because these brackets, when you see the data there, it's called a JSON. And a JSON, you can just visualize a JSON in a better way. So yeah, you can use this website, for example. And so basically, it's a bit more clear here. So this is the reply that we got. So this is, so apparently our search was accurate. So this is like the data that we got for the city, Berlin. This is latitude and longitude. And you can see the temperature feels like, I think this is like a Kelvin thing, hopefully. And this is like the minimum daily temperature, the pressure, the humidity, and so on. There are many other data available here that you can just basically see them very easily. I want to see if I basically, if you're interested in getting this data, so for many cities, so basically one thing you could do is so in the API request that we sent, you can just change the name of the city to any other. So let's see, Darmstadt, for example, or Mainz. You can get the data from Mainz as well. So basically, you can have a Python code that just change this part and get for whatever city you want, okay? And I show you in a moment how you can just automatize this in your Python code. So basically, you can get the same thing. So for Mainz, again, the data here like this, okay? So we have a chat question. Yeah, I'm going to this question. Just give me a minute. So this is basically, as I said, so you usually get a JSON back and you need to read this JSON, okay? And I will show you in a moment how you can read these JSONs in Python and how to automatize everything. So the type of request that we send to the server could be 4 types. So this was an example of a GET request that we sent to the server. So the GET requests are the requests that you send and you want something that is already stored on the database and you just want to get it back, okay? These are the get. There's other way of sending requests. So sometimes you can, for example, send a post request. And when you send a post request, you can change something on the server. For example, you can, in our like restaurant analogy. So if you send a feedback to the restaurant manager that, for example, your kitchen is crap, this post can change something on the server, and that can just fire the chef or whatever can happen there. And there's a procedure for this post that you send there, and it can change the server side. Okay, so so for web scraping, you usually don't work with postings, but sometimes you need to send something and call some change into the web server, and then you can get something new again. And there's put and delete things for updating or deleting something on the server. So the main question maybe came to your mind is the security of this issue. So if anyone can change anything in a server, what happens? The thing is, there is a security behind that. So first of all these APIs are, for these APIs, you usually need an API key. So basically with this API key, people can control who can access to what. So sometimes if you are not authorized, you cannot send any post request to the server. And also for the GET request, you usually need an API key to see if you are among the paid users, so you can access the data. That's the main thing. So so the API key is the first thing. And yeah, otherwise, if everyone can send a post or delete or something in the server, then we don't have any internet anymore. Just to elaborate a bit on the difference between GET and POST, for the GET, so it's usually used for fetching documents or any data that is stored on the database, and it could be cached. So for example, if there is already a request, similar request processed on the database, there is a cache memory there that it will not calculate again for you. So they just give you back the cache one. So in the restaurant, it could be that someone else ordered this food and they bring you the previously ordered food to you. So this is like the similarity here. So a GET request could be cached. So you don't need to be worried about that, because basically what GET means is, you basically could do million times of the GET without changing anything to the server. So that's why caching a GET request is not an issue. And basically you won't change anything in the server. With a POST request, on the other hand, you're updating data on the database, and they are never cached. So basically, every time there is something new happens on the database, then you post something, and it could do some change on the server. And when you send a request, so the response that you get back, it usually starts with a response number. So based on how the process was handled. So if it was a successful communication, you get a 200 response. If it is redirected to another URL, you get a 300 something response. If there is an error, or there is like non-available page or anything regarding your comment, you get a 400 something. So for example, the famous 404 message that you usually get is that when you go to a website that is not available, so you get 404, for example. And 500 something means that so that there is an error in the server side with your request. So that's usually when there is a bug on the server. And yeah, if people want to see the bug in the server, they play around with those messages to get this 500 things. So how it works here, I can just show it again here. So if we look at our send request that we had here, we can just see more, you can see when sending this request, we get a 200. It means that our code was done successfully. And what your request also includes is a header. And a header is basically all the information that your browser stored on you and sends this to the server. So basically, the servers now know that there was someone with a Mac OS, with the Google Chrome, this version, access this URL. And basically, this is and there's like always some cookies. So with these cookies that the server knows, if you send again a new request, the server knows that the same guy is asking twice the same thing or something like that. And this request, these request headers are unique to you. And then basically, you're possible, you can just do the same thing without the browser. Just you can mimic being in a browser without being in a browser. How you can do that? Basically, you can just say, I want like a C URL of this. You can just basically open your terminals and you can get the C URL that you want, and you can just curl it. So basically, it's now, so this command that we have here, it has all the information that the browser has. So basically, if you send the same request here, you get the same reply back, and the server doesn't know that you're in the browser anymore. So basically, the server thinks that you're still in the browser, and you send this request, and you get it back. So you need this for the web scraping, because sometimes you need to act being like in a browser, and that's why you need to know about this stuff. Okay, another chat question. So I just get to the REST APIs. So basically, all these APIs that we have here. So this is like the general API that you see here. The REST APIs are like just created for the purpose that we have. So if you want to ask for a data set, these REST APIs are there to give you a JSON back. So these APIs are like a very broad concept. Basically, whatever communication that you have with the server is like an API call. But if you use, so there are some RESTful APIs that they are there for you to ask data sets that you want from the APIs. And basically, we are going to focus on the REST APIs. Okay. So what we did here is like a very complicated way of asking the data. So usually you don't need to go so deeply into the communication of the server to realize what kind of data you need. So sometimes there are this API tab in a website that they nicely provide you a documented way of how you can just ask their data. Some databases are very open to that. So for example, this open weather map is like just created for this. Some data sets you cannot find any API for them. So for example, LinkedIn is very famous for that. So usually how a lot of difficulties if you want to access the LinkedIn data from your Python code. So that's why, like, yeah, it's really difficult. There was like the guy who hacked LinkedIn once and created lots of, so scraped all the data from LinkedIn. And what LinkedIn did, they just hired him. So to just make sure that no one else can do that. So yeah, if you can scrape LinkedIn, you have a good chance of being hired by LinkedIn. Okay, so there are many APIs here. So for example, assume we are interested in the current weather data. So the most simplest one. You can just go to the API documentation. And what you can see is that there's always easy ways for you to get the data that you want. So for example, this is the, this is like the format. You can just ask for this API, and then you can see that what is this things there. So there are some required things that you need to have. So the most important thing is the city name. So you have just a city name, and you need an API key. That are the required part, but you can add something more. So you can have, for example, you can say that I want optional units. So for example, the unit could be a standard, matrix, imperial, or you can have it in another language if you want, for example. So you can just with the same format, you just change this orange part with the things that you are interested in, and just send it to the server and give you back the result that you want. So you usually need to acquire an API key, and I don't know how to acquire the API key, but I know I have this API key here. So I can just create this, change the API key that I have here. And the city name is Berlin. Oh, okay, I have an invalid key. That's why I got a 401 message. So if you remember this 400 something, it means that the things that I had, there was no response for it on the server side. So I need to find a key. I just don't know how to apply for an API key here. But basically, yeah, just as soon as you have an API key, you can just change the city name here, and you can always get the data that you are interested in. So they are documented here, but in case they are not documented, you can always find it by just analyzing the network activities. That, for example, when you click on some buttons, there is some APIs that is called on the server side. Okay. Good. So, as I said, usually nice websites offer a nicely documented API to access their data sets. And to do that, you usually need to apply for an API key. It depends on the website if they can give you a free API, or you need to pay based on how many requests you get. So this like website dependent. So usually search for the data. So for me, it's always I search the data set I'm interested plus an API, and then Google usually find the API and their website. So that's the easier way for me. And so there is some more standardized way to find the data that you are interested in. So there are some websites that create a hub. So they basically collect many APIs from many websites, and they offer it in a standardized way in their website. So the only thing you need to do is to just register on their own website and access to millions of APIs available there. So I'm trying to introduce you 3 of them today. So the first one is a Rapid API. This is a website that collects millions of APIs. So basically, whatever you can think of. Yeah, so for example, if you want to send some SMS to someone, they can just use your Python code to do that. If you want to have a translation, so basically you don't need to create your own translator. So there are like translators out there that you can just access easily without any problem. Or if you're interested in the flight data, something like that. So there are like many things. So there was like one nice thing that I saw yesterday was like gives you the cocktail recipe. So basically you just send a cocktail name, gives you back the recipe. And there are, yeah, a lot of things. So for example, COVID data is also very popular nowadays. You can basically just collect the COVID data easily without making a web scraper to do this stuff. So, but what we're interested is in the finance APIs. So I just want to give you some examples. So, for example, I'm interested in Seeking Alpha. I don't know if you heard of Seeking Alpha. It's a website that offers a lot of useful data and analysis for any ticker that you give them. So, for example, if you search for Apple, then you can see like basically lots of information. So if there's ratings, financials, earnings, like some momentum things. There's also, interestingly, there are some analyses. So there are like some freelancer analysts that are there and just give their opinion about this thing, if they think bullish or bearish about a stock. And you can access the SEC filings of the Apple and many things. So if you're interested to gather lots of data from Seeking Alpha, so obviously you can just manually click and collect the data somewhere. But if you're going to collect millions of data, it's better to use an API. So this API is apparently providing us with this data. So basically, you can see if there is any tutorials here. No, there isn't. Okay, there is at least one thing. You can see how you can use this API here, and you can see how much does it cost for you. So there is a basic free version that you can have 500 calls a month, and yeah, if you need more, you can just subscribe to them, but I'm just subscribing to this one. And let's see what kind of endpoints we have. Okay, so for example, I want to get a profile of a symbol. So for example, if I'm interested in Apple, so as you see, there are like some fields that are already there for you. So a Rapid API gives you always a key itself, and everything is there for you. So the only thing that is required and you need to put is a symbol. So if you want Apple, you can just test this to see what gives you back. So basically what it gives you is a data point with 3 items, an ID, a type, and lots of attributes. And the attributes contains less activity. That is also 10 things there. So like the last price, open, close, and so on, the volume. And there are other company information here. So for example, what's the name, what's the market cap? So I think the market, so this is basically what you see here. Basically, yeah. So there should be everything that is translated here in this page is available with this API. Okay, so basically, Seeking Alpha has a server that when you say Apple, it gets a JSON file and it translates this JSON file in your browser to this nicely graphed things. Other than that, it's just at the end this that is communicated between the servers. So how you can get this data? Very easy. You can see the code snippets. So basically, for all the languages available. So for Python, so there are 3 ways to get it. So I usually use the request. So basically, you import a request, and then this is a URL, and there are some headers that you want to send with your URL. This is a GET request, and so on. So basically, you can just copy this, and yeah, you have your own Jupyter notebook, and you basically get the data that you are interested in. As I said, this data is a bit ugly here, but you can always JSON validator, you can always see what's going on there. It's basically what I had. So now we want to work with this data. So that's why we need to import JSON and work with the JSON file. So we import JSON and we say that, so we basically say that we create a response data and say that this is, we load the response text that we just had here, and it will JSONify it for you. So if you just want to, basically you can just see the same thing here. So what you see here, there are some levels of the information here. So the first level is data. So basically you are interested in this data part until here. So as you see, there's this bracket here, it starts here and ends here. So, and that's why you're interested in the first element of this document. No. So you're basically interested in data. Yeah. Okay, and now in the data, now again, you see a lot of things. So, but I guess you're interested in the first element of it, yeah, which is another JSON again. And now you're maybe interested in the attributes. So now there are two levels. So you have ID, type, and attributes, and all the others are in the attributes. Okay, so if you're interested in the attributes, you go to attributes, and then now again in attribute, you can see a last daily that starts here until here, and the rest are there. So basically now we can just call the average tree vol get this, or if you're interested in the open, for example, so you just need to enter to the last daily first, and there you need to call for open. Okay. And now, so basically, you know how to, so you can just create a for loop that you're interested into, like 10 stocks. So for each stock, you get the request, and just for the response data, you go until here and get the open. And now you can just create a Panda data frame, and then you can just go on with the analysis that you want to do. Okay. Yeah. Also, there's also, you can beautiful it with beautiful soup. But yeah, we will talk about beautiful soup next week. So yeah, up to you. There are millions of ways how to work with a Python piece of code and get what you want. Great. So this is one example. So I just wanted to also start with SEC filings, but I think we can do it in the next sessions. But what is important for me now to tell you is that, so as I said, you have possibilities to do it in other languages, and you can also get it in your as a CURL or as a vget. So you, like a vget is also possibility. So for vgets, you can just use your terminals and vget this data. Or as I said, you can, for terminal message, you can always put an exclamation mark and then vget these things. So you can basically do it also as a shell command. And here, as you see here, so there's just one piece of code that you need to change. For any other new, for example, to Tesla, the same. Yeah. Easy. Okay, any questions on Rapid API? You can just open your mics if you want. Okay, if not, we can go to the second hub. Second hub is Quandel. So it was a company back when I was working on this data, but now it's like acquired by Nasdaq. Just last night I realized this. So basically, for Quandel.com, you will go to datanasdaq.com, but it's basically the same. What you want to do here is you just search for some data that you're interested in. Like the good thing is it get the data from millions of resources. So for example, if you're searching for GDP of Germany, for sure they need to improve their search API, but yeah, you can see if you're interested in the free databases. So so there's like, so for example, IMF has a data set. Federal Reserve have its own data sets. There are many data providers. So ECB has also its own database. And then you can just, with Quandel API, you have the access to all of them basically. And for example, if you're interested in the ECB data sets, so you can go there again, search for GDP. Unfortunately, it's not written. So it's a lot of data, but it's not what I'm interested in. Okay, anyway, so assume that you find the data that you're interested in, so you can just expand it. And so you can just say, okay, I'm interested in this amount of data here, and you can just download it as a CSV, but you can also find some libraries here, like the Python, and then it gives you the data. So basically, you can just first you need to import Quandel. And this is how you can get it. So Quandel get, so this is the data provider, ECB, and this is the data points that we are interested in. And it gives you, if you're logged into the Quandel, it gives you some API key itself. So it's basically it. So you can just get it as a data frame, and yeah, basically you know how to work with data frames. Quandel is very good for specific macro data. For example, if you're interested in them, you can always find the data that you are there. Just their search is not very nice. But yeah, you need to struggle a bit to find the data you need, but the data is there. So yeah. Good. Yeah, and the last one is Panda's data reader. I won't go through it because it's already very nicely documented. So basically, it gathers also lots of data from starting from Yahoo Finance to many other things like Moscow Exchange, Stock Exchange. So there's like also a Korean stock exchange there. So form of range data, you can also get in. It has also a Quandl API, so you can basically, without using Quandl, you can, if you know what data you want, you can just use it as a Panda data reader, and basically, yeah, this is like a very straightforward. So if you just go to the documentation for each of these things, you can see a lot of data. But what I'm just interested is in one of them, which is like Alpha Vantage. This one offers you a lot of data. Basically, that's why I'm interested in. So there's also already API documentation. So you can get lots of time series for stocks. You can get the balance sheets and fundamental data for companies, and lots of Forex data, cryptocurrency data. Like, I'm also very interested in, so if you also want technical indicators, you can also find them. So what else it has? So like this normal economic indicators and so on. It has also intraday data. That's also very nice. This one. So if you want to create your machine learning models, you usually it's not a bad idea to start with intraday data. So basically, you have like a 1 minute interval, 5 minute intervals, and so on. And then it is very easy to just apply for one API key. Is for free usually. And basically you can say, yeah, I'm interested in this time series intradays for this symbol, like IBM 5-minute database, and then you need to replace your API key here. And yeah, you can get the data, and then the same way you get the JSON, and you just convert it to a Panda data frame, and you can work with that. This is a very interesting one. But as I said, for APIs, there's always like each API document is different from the other one. So you need to read the API documentations. And yeah, you're usually good to go after that. Okay. Now, I think we have enough time for this group exercise. I don't know how many, so we have 41 students here. So what I'm going to do is, so I will create four breakout room sessions. So let me first stop the video.